Now up to the second question here. How did the meanings of sport differ for different social groups? Hopefully you listened to this first recording on the question, how have the meanings of amateur and professional sport changed? So if this question was to pop up in an exam, the two dash points that you're going to be focusing on in your writing would be these two here: links with manliness, patriotism and character, and the meanings of amateur and professional sport. When talking about social groups, what the syllabus is requiring you to write about is talking about the class system that existed in the day. And there was this distinct separation between the upper class and the lower class. And let me tell you, the upper class liked it that way. They did all they could in their power to have nothing to do with the lower class. Now, obviously, the dominant class was the people with the economic power, so that was the upper class. They were the people who had all the wealth. They were playing the most prestigious sports, which were the amateur sports. It was the lower class who were a bit on the outside of society, and their sports, the professional sports, funnily enough, were receiving little or no media attention at the time. Now, the upper class saw sport as an excellent way to develop strong character in men. They saw that sport would develop strong men, this idea of manliness, and also of being good character. And amateur sport helped achieve both of these qualities. And the key term that comes up a lot, as was discussed in the previous dot point, was this idea of muscular Christianity. Now, this whole idea of muscular Christianity, it sounds a bit of a fancy term, but it's really quite simple. It's all about playing strong and playing fair. And sports such as cricket was seen to really able to achieve these two strong qualities. Now, the lower class in the 19th century were working long hours in low-paid jobs. This prevented them to be able to train adequately for their jobs and remain an amateur sportsman. So they were forced into playing professional sport if they had any sort of sporting ability. Now, the upper class sort of started this myth that professional sport was thought to be more prone to cheating, and it didn't have the same qualities. The men who played these were professional sports and were thought not to have this idea of strong character qualities such as muscular Christianity. Now, interestingly enough, something you could probably write about, this idea of cheating and corruption has remained in professional sport and is still around today. You only have to look at some of the drug scandals that are going on in professional sport to see that is in fact the case today. Now, this slide is showing what the big sports were for both amateur and professional sports in the 19th century. Some of these sports still remain very popular today, but others, such as rowing and yachting and hunting, certainly do not have the same profile today. While the sport of rugby league in particular in this country was not looked upon as being that popular because it was played by the professionals early in the 19th century, but that has certainly turned around today, where rugby league, especially on the east coast of Australia, is extremely popular. Many sporting clubs were started by the elite upper class, which required expensive memberships to join, such as golf clubs. And this again was used to prevent the lower class from joining to keep this class divide going. One of the great things about amateur sport, which certainly was an idea that the upper class developed, was this idea of playing for the love of the game only, meaning that you weren't, as a sportsman, you were not playing for money. Now, many sports followers today are pretty disappointed that this tradition has been lost in sport. In fact, some of the people of the older generation today think sport has changed dramatically because of the influx of money into sport. They believe it has changed sport for the worse. So three main points you could write about when answering this question, I think, would be the first one: sport was used by the upper class to stay separated from the lower class, and this whole idea of being amateur and professional helped achieve that goal for the upper class. The sports that were popular were different between the two groups, two social classes. It was cricket, golf and rowing that were popular for the upper class, while for the lower class it was boxing and rugby league. And interestingly enough, this still sort of happens a bit today, particularly if you have a look at some of the private schools that sports such as rowing are still really popular in the private school, and rowing receives not is not really as a sport used in by the lower classes at all. While today, even the sport of rugby league and boxing is still very much considered blue-collar sports, really popular amongst the lower class, although certainly they, particularly with the case of rugby league, it's gained popularity amongst all class divides. Now, the other big difference at the time of the 19th century was that the upper class were playing the sports that had the most prestige. They had all the money, they had all the financial backing for their particular sports, and it was the lower class who were playing sports that received little or no media attention.